Hello and welcome to our channel, where we explore the history and culture of different regions of the world. Today, we'll be taking a journey through the Silk Road, a network of trade routes that connected the East and West for centuries. Join us as we explore the history, significance, and legacy of this fascinating trade route. The topic is divided into 3 sections. In section 1, we will be talking about the origins of the Silk Road. In section 2, we will be talking about the routes of the Silk Road, and in section 3, we will shed light on the legacy of the Silk Road. Let's get started. Section 1, the origins of the Silk Road. The Silk Road, as we know it today, began during the Han Dynasty in China, 206 BC to 220 CE. At the time, China was the only producer of silk, which was considered a luxury item in the Western world. The Chinese would trade silk along various routes to other civilizations, such as the Parthians and the Romans, in exchange for other goods like spices, precious metals, and gems. One of the main routes of the Silk Road started in the city of Chang'an, now Xi'an, in China, crossed through the Gobi Desert and the Pamir Mountains, and finally reached the Mediterranean world, with its endpoint in Rome. This route was also known as the land route since it was primarily used for overland trade. Another route, called the sea route, was used for trade between China and the Mediterranean world via sea trade. This route would start in Chinese ports such as Guangzhou and would pass through Southeast Asia, India, and the Middle East, ultimately reaching the Mediterranean. The Silk Road quickly became a cultural exchange route, with merchants, travelers, and scholars traveling along the routes. They would exchange not only goods but also ideas and knowledge. This exchange of ideas and knowledge had a significant impact on the development of civilization in different regions. For example, the Chinese learned about Buddhism from Indian monks who traveled along the Silk Road, and this led to the development of Chinese Buddhism. Similarly, the Greeks learned about the Chinese and their culture through the travels of Alexander the Great and other explorers who journeyed along the Silk Road. The Silk Road was not only a route for trade and cultural exchange but also a means for diplomacy and peace. The Silk Road allowed various empires and civilizations to connect with each other and establish diplomatic relationships. One notable example is the Parthian Empire and the Han Dynasty of China, which had a series of diplomatic exchanges facilitated by the Silk Road. Section 2, the routes of the Silk Road. The Silk Road was not a single route but rather a vast network of trade routes that spanned over 7,000 miles from China to the Mediterranean. The routes were made up of a series of trade stops, or caravanserais, where travelers could rest, trade goods, and exchange ideas. The Silk Road passed through many different regions, including Central Asia, Persia, India, and the Mediterranean world. One of the main routes of the Silk Road started in the city of Chang'an in China and passed through the Hexi Corridor, which was a narrow strip of land connecting China to Central Asia. From there, the route split into several different paths, with some going through the Taklamakan Desert and the Pamir Mountains, while others went through the Tarim Basin and the Gobi Desert. These routes would eventually converge at the city of Kashgar in present-day Xinjiang, China. From Kashgar, the route would continue on to Central Asia and beyond, eventually reaching the Mediterranean world. Another important route of the Silk Road was the southern route or the sea route. This route began in Chinese ports such as Guangzhou and Quanzhou, and it passed through Southeast Asia, India, and the Middle East, eventually reaching the Mediterranean world. The southern route was essential for the exchange of spices, perfumes, and other luxury goods, as it allowed traders to bypass the harsh conditions of the land route. The Silk Road also had several branch routes that connected different regions. For example, the northern route connected China to the Baltic Sea via Mongolia, Siberia, and Central Asia. The route facilitated the exchange of furs, timber, and amber from northern Europe to China. Another important branch of the Silk Road was the Tea Horse Road, which connected China to Tibet and beyond. The route was used for the trade of tea, salt, and horses. The Silk Road was not only a trade route but also a cultural and intellectual exchange route. Along the way, travelers would exchange ideas, knowledge, and beliefs. For example, Buddhism traveled along the Silk Road from India to China, and it led to the development of various forms of Buddhism in different regions. The Silk Road also allowed for the spread of Islam, which originated in Arabia but eventually spread to Central Asia, and beyond through the Silk Road. Thanks for watching, and join us next time as we explore more fascinating topics from around the world.